share. And I'll minimize that. All right, let's keep going then. All right, so I'm going to change this design just a little bit. I'm going to create a generic user table. Okay, I'll create a generic user table that will have more or less the same column, same. Right, so I'm going to have. Actually, I don't want to do it here. Let me do it in my Visual Studio. Let me connect here. Add connection. And this is Jan Nunziato. This is SQL Express. And the database we're going to use is the lectures. I'll test the connection, and that's okay. I'll go in there. And now I'll create a table in there. Come on. There is lectures. And in here, I'll create a generic users table. And I'm going to have here, I'm going to have a username. This is going to be varchar. And this is going to be my primary key. And then in here, I might have things such as, again, first name, 50. Varchar 50. Can't type. This could be null. I guess I could do it here, right? Last name, varchar 50. What else should we have here? Maybe date of birth, DOB, date of birth, date. Maybe over here we'll have whether I'm a donor or not, or maybe I could be both, right? So I could be sponsored, and maybe I'm sponsoring. And this one I like to be able to be true or false, right? So kind of like a checkbox I would like for this, right? So for that, it's a good idea to use the bit, right? Data type, and that Visual Studio will automatically understand that you want a checkbox. You want to render that as a checkbox. Okay. I could also be sponsored. I could be both, right? I could be, somebody could be sponsoring me, and I could be sponsoring someone else. I'm being sponsored. Bit. Anything else? First name, last name, date of birth. Okay, let me create that for now. Oh, maybe a password. Username, password. Date of birth. Email maybe. Okay. Anyway, so let's generate that. Okay, so here we go. We generated it. We can then go to our solutions, and let's go to our experiments and our login page. Our login page right now, when we log in, it goes to profile, right? And that's fine. Now I'm going to rename that profile. I'm going to rename it something else. I don't want to lose it. I'll leave it here. I'm going to create a new profile page. Web form. It's going to use my new user table. Okay. So let's create another profile page. And in here, I'm going to bring my bootstrap. Give it a title. File. And in here, I'm going to just paint a couple of things. Class container. And put here h1 saying that this is a profile page. And I want to put here my I want to list that that user, right? that particular user. I'll add the table, the new table that I just created, user. Oh, did I call it table? I guess I called it table, huh? Let me rename it. I'll rename it. Instead of table, I'll call it user. And I'll update. And if I go back and I refresh my tables, now this user. Well, I have now user and I have table, right? I'm just going to drop the table. I don't need that. Delete that. Okay, I just have user. Very good. Let me go back to my new profile page, and I'll drop the user in there. Notice that the sponsor and sponsor are now checkboxes. See that? Right, because it sees that it's a bit, right, and knows how to render it correctly. I'm going to paint this a little bit. I'm going to say that this is now a table using a bootstrap class, so it looks a little prettier. Let's try it out. See if it's working. Go back here and I go to my login and I refresh. I go click on login. Oops. What happened here? Profile.aspx. The resource you're looking has been removed. It's not there. Profile. Is it not there? Let's see. Profile. Where did I put it? Oh, I put it outside of the directory. It actually should be in here. There we go. Let's try that again. Okay, there it is. So I have the profile and I have the username. Actually, I don't have the username, right? Why do I have the username? Let's see. Oh, because I never typed anything, right? If I say Alice, okay, I'm here. We should have. Let's add a little bit of data in there. Let's go to the user. Let's add some data. If you go to if you right click it, you can go to its data. There it is, and I can start typing a couple of things here. So here I'll say Alice, Alice, Alice at Wonderland. Alice, Wonderland. Their birth, sponsor. I'll say I'll create one more. Bob at Marley.com. We have Bob Marley. There we go. Update that. Oops. What happened to Bob? Marley.com. Bob Marley. Okay, I think that's it. So if I refresh, I have those two, but I don't want them to. I want only the one that I want Alice, right? Because I logged in as Alice, so I can change that that page. I don't need that anymore. Let's go to profile. In the profile, the way we could do that is that we can grab the username and configure the select statement that is being used, right? So let's see. Let's find at the SQL data source. Let's look for the select command. There it is. There's a select command. And we're going to filter it. We're going to say, I don't want all of them. I just want, I'm going to filter and it says where username equal username. Username, right? The parameter username. And right here, I'm going to add a select parameter, select parameters, and add one here from the query string. You know, grab it from the query string. Grab the username field, the parameter. You grab set the username parameter, which is a string, and grab it from the query field called username. Right, we did this on Monday. Remember that? If we refresh here, we only get Alice. Right, we did that. Okay, so that's my profile. And say I have a wall, right? I have a wall where I can post different things, right? And if I go there, everybody has their own wall, right? If you go to Facebook or if you go, right, everybody has their own wall, right? And everybody can post to their wall, right? You have different posts, but not only you can post, other people can also post, right? So that's going to be kind of weird, right? Because I can post, some other people can post as well. How do we distinguish between me owning the wall and someone else, also working on that? So let's play around with that a little bit, okay? So what we want to be able to do is in the database we want to keep track of articles or posts that we make to our list of posts. Yes. So let's create a page called wall ASPX, and in here so I'm going to put it here. I'm going to add Bootstrap here. I like to be able to say, well, this is my wall. So H1, here's my wall, and I like to have like a list of all my posts. Okay, but notice that I should be able to navigate to this page, but others can navigate to this page, right? So I should be able to distinguish between them. And if it's others who are navigating and they want to post, I need to be able to distinguish as, hey, this is not me who's posting, it's others who are posting, right? But I still should be able to distinguish and say, well, I want to list all of them regardless of who's posting. I'm the owner of the wall, right? I should list all of them regardless of who's posting. Okay, so I need to be able to distinguish between the two. So let's create a data model for capturing the posts. Let's close the search. So let me create a table for us being able to capture that. So let's create a new table, call it a post, a single post. Right, and what do we have in a post? Let's see. We might have a title, right? I have a title, varchar. We might have the actual content. And if this is Twitter, we only limit you to 140 characters. But let's be a little more generous, and we'll go with 1,000. Maybe the date that it was posted. Okay, so we'll say date. This will be of type date. What else? Well, maybe we want to keep track of who's the owner of this post, right? Who's the owner, username, right? And then, but who actually authored the post? It might be that if I'm posting to my own wall, I am the owner and I am the poster or the author. But if this is my wall and I have my friends trying to post here, I might have here links to the author. Okay. All right. So I might have here the owner username, which is a varchar, and I might have here the author username. Okay, and these are both foreign keys, right? These are foreign keys back to the users table, right? So I can always know who these guys are, right? So I'll say that these guys are foreign keys, foreign key, references, username. Right, that's the primary key. And this one too references the same thing, right? Foreign key, references, user name. Okay, make sense? Right, anything else we should put in here? Let's update that. Let's create that. So here's my profile. My profile, I like to be able to go to my wall, right? In my profile, I might keep maybe my private things, right? My list of images, my list of friends, my things like that. But my public stuff is in the wall, right? Everybody can see things that are posting, right? So I like to be able to navigate from my profile. So let me go to my profile. So here's my profile, and at the top, maybe I want to navigate. I want to say maybe a link to my wall, right? So this would be href to the wall, ASPX, and then wall. And maybe this will be a button or link, or however you want to paint this, right? So I'll make it a button. Button primary and button block. Okay, so if I click, it takes me to the wall. In the wall, I'm going to put this in a container. There's my wall. And in here, I should have all the posts, yes, that are related to that particular user. So I'm gonna drag the posts in here. Here are the posts. I'm gonna create a little section for this, and I'm gonna drag the posts in here. Okay, there it is. And I'm gonna save that. Oops, wait, what? Save. Source, and I'm gonna say I just dragged it. I'm gonna change the styling a little bit to be table from the Bootstrap. Let's see what the wall looks like right now. Right now, there are no posts. Yes, there are no posts. So this should be the wall from where? Well, it depends who's navigating, right? It could be that I am navigating to this wall from my profile, or somebody's navigating from having found me, right, in a search. Yes. So this should be configured to be, the owner. Right? Whose wall is this? Whose wall is this? It is not the wall necessarily the wall of whoever is logged in, right? It's the wall of however I navigate it. Because if I want to be able to navigate to somebody's wall, right? I don't want it to just display my wall as the logged in user. I want to display whoever I navigate to. So I'm going to pass this argument, whose wall I want to display, right? Whose post I want to display. So I'll pass it as an argument. Okay. So for my profile, so how did I reach the profile? So I've reached the profile having logged in, right? So I logged in, and I'm showing the profile from where? From my login page, right? So I have the username in my request, right? So I could pass that along to the wall.aspx, right? I could say, show the posts only for the wall, right? Okay, so I'm going to say, I'm going to pass the owner username. I'll pass it. And where is it? Where do I have it now? I have it in the request, right? It's there. So I can add it here by using ASPX, right? The expression directive here. right? That I can say request, and then the map. What is it called? What do we call it? In login, what do we call it? Just username, right? There it is, username. So username. Okay, let's try that again. If I reload this, notice if I hover over the wall, right, notice at the bottom it says wall.aspx query owner username equal Alex, right? So if I click on the wall, notice that the wall says this is the wall for the owner username Alice. Yes? So I would show the posts for that owner username, not the one who's logged in. Well, obviously, if I log in and I navigate to this page, the owner and the logged in user are one and the same. Yes? But if somebody else navigates to this, it might be somebody else who's logged in, but they navigate to my wall. Does that make sense? Right? We have to keep track of these two users, right? The visitor, right, and the owner. Okay. All right. So here's the wall. I want to post. I want to post something to my wall. So let's create a in the wall. Let's create a button that allows me to post something. Okay. So let me create a button here, or link, maybe to another page that will allow me to type in my post. Right. So I can say href, maybe go to a web page, maybe called post.aspx, aspx. Right. And I'll pass along the owner. I'll pass along the owner, right? Owner username. Again, it's still in the request. Owner username. Right, and then it's post. Or write new post. Write new, or post to your wall. Post to this wall. Okay, and I'll paint this a little bit with Bootstrap. And this is a button primary, button block. There you go. So I'll post to this wall. It'll go to a different page. I can type my title, my content, give it a date, right, and then post it. And then what I like to be able to do is come back here, right, and then show my brand new post. Make sense? All right. So if I don't have a post page, so let's create one. Let's create a post page. Where's post? Let's create a new one. Add a post page. And let's add Bootstrap. Okay. And in here, I want to show all the posts for who? The post by the. I'm sorry, no. Here I want to have a form where I can create a new post, right? For that, what I'm going to do. Well, first let's paint this in a container, and let's identify this page, h1, new post. And I want here the form. I'm going to drag it in here. I want a form in here. So I need a data source that will connect to the post, right? Be able to insert into the post and things like that. So the easiest way to generate here a data source is to drag the table again. Obviously, that's going to also generate a grid view, right? I don't want the grid view, right? I only want the data source. But it's easier for me to generate the data source by just dragging the table over. Okay, it'll have all all the SQL for the insert, all the SQL that I need. I'll drag that and I'll just throw away the grid view, right? I don't want the grid view. So let me drag the post. Okay, there it is, but I don't really want the grid view. I'll just drop down, but I still have the data source. You know, I still have the data source. I do want a details view that allows me to create new ones or edit posts, right? So I'll drag it over and say to use that same data source that I just dragged over, right? So I'll drag this over. It says, okay, which data source do you want to use? I want to use that data source, right, which I just created. And notice that it reads it, it knows what the fields are, right? Notice that it will allow me to type in the title, the content, the date. Okay. So let's paint this a little bit. Let's paint this and let's use wait, CSS table. So if I go post this, right? Oh, did I save this? I didn't save it. Oh, okay. So since there are no records, right, the form doesn't show, right? So let's configure that a little bit with the design and say that this should be ready to be inserting, enable inserting, and we're going to configure the default behavior, default mode to be for insertion, right? His behavior. Let me click on that. Behavior data. Oh, was it behavior? I think it wasn't behavior. Behavior, there it is. So default mode is read only. So I'm going to say default mode is insert. There we go. All right, so let me save that. There we go. Now we have a form, right? And this form is where we can type in different things here, right? Well, a couple things here. The content, that's by default. Notice that it's using an input field, right? That's kind of scrunched, right? It's too small, right? Maybe we want to change this to be like a text area or something, right? And the date, I'm gonna have to actually type the date, right? That's kind of cumbersome as well. What I like to be able to do is maybe have like a like a plugin that would be a date picker, right? So let's play around with those things. It's too slow. So let's go back and let's see if we can change this. If we click on the content and we go to edit fields, I can choose the content and say that I want this to convert this field into a template field as opposed to a default field, right? The default behavior or the default rendering. Right? The default rendering is to use a text box, okay? A single line text box, right? Instead, I want to change it to a template field. So I'll change it to a template field. I'll say OK. It doesn't look very different, right? Let me save that. If I render it, it still looks exactly the same way. But now I can go back here. I can go into the source and notice that that particular field has been replaced, right? They all used to be bound field, bound field, bound field, right? They're all bound field, except now this one that also used to be a bound field, but now it's a template field. You see that, right? And now it's giving me exactly what it's using to render each one of these things, right? This is the template that it would use when it would for you to edit. If you're trying to edit the record, it would use that template. If you're inserting, right, that's what it would use. This is the template that it would use. If it's just displaying it, it would use a label. See that? It would use an ASP label. So for both editing and for inserting, they're using just a regular text area. And text area renders as just a regular HTML input field. You see that? Right? But we could configure that. If we go to the text box and we say text mode, right, equal multi-line, see that? We do that and we save that and we refresh, notice that it changes to a text area. See that? If we look at it, if we inspect it, that's the text, that's the HTML that gets rendered back. Right? So you can configure it to be, you can configure how many lines you want, and you can configure certain things, right? So that's a little better. So the content I can actually type, have more space to type in there. Okay. The other thing that I would like to be able to do is this date, right? I don't want to have to type the date, right? What I like to be able to do is have like a date picker, right? When I hover over it or when I click on it, right, to show a date picker, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use jQuery state picker, right? It's a nice date picker plugin. If you can look it up at jQuery date picker. If you go in there, it gives you a couple of examples on how it works. If you click on it, it just hovers. It displays this plugin where you can, you can navigate through the years, and then it renders it, right? Okay. And there's a couple of how to format it, right? If you want the button to be when you hover over it or when you click on it on focus, right? And this and go away when you hover away. I mean, you can configure lots and lots of different things. Okay. So to do that, I'm going to have to bring jQuery into here. I have to bring jQuery. Where is this? Okay, there we go. So I believe I have jQuery somewhere here. Let's see, where is it? I think I might have it under JavaScript. Yeah, there it is. So JavaScript, there it is. I also need the jQuery CSS stuff. Where would that be? Maybe in my, do I have it in my lectures? Let me see. jQuery. I have the JS, but not the CSS. Do I have the CSS? Oh, yes, I have smoothness there. There we go. Okay, but I have it under lectures. I don't have it under experiments. Let me bring that over. Actually, no, let me go and navigate there. Okay, so let's see. Where are we? We are under posts. I need to go all the way up. The script. I need to go source. I need to go up one, up one, up one. Right now I'm way at the top. Now I'm going to go down to lectures. Lectures. And then I have in there, what do I have in the lectures? Let's see. I have it under lectures, and I have under there jQuery. And I have JS under there. And what do I have under JS? I have these two things that I need. Oh, no. Oh, yeah, I have both UI as well. Okay, so let me copy that. .js. Right, and I also need the UI, which is this one. Copy that. There we go. I have those two. I need the CSS, which, where is it? It's one above, right? Right there it is. So let me bring that as well. Again, it's under lectures. Lectures. Under CSS. And in there, what do I have? Let's see. I have smoothness. So let's do smoothness. Smoothness. And under there, I have this custom JavaScript, CSS. Let me copy that, paste, oops, .css. There we go. I think we're all set. I think we have everything. Let's see. Let's reload our page and let's make sure. Let's reload. I can always go into my header file, into my header, and see if all the files have been loaded. There they are, right? There we go. There's the lecture smoothness. If I click on it, okay, there's something there, right? There's code, right? So yes, the link is correct. Wait, inspect. Let's see if the JavaScript is there. Yeah, it's there. Right, okay, I think everything is loaded. All right, so let's look at the documentation for date picker. And basically, it's very easy. You just grab, whatever DOM element you want to convert into a date picker, right? And you just apply dot date picker. Very easy. All right, so let's copy that. And let's paste, well, actually, let's copy the whole script here, right? There we go. Let me go back here and add it here. There it is. There it is, date picker. So now we need to know what do we want to grab, right? What is that we want to grab? We want to grab this guy, this date over here. So let's inspect it and see how we can grab it. Let's see, how could we grab it? It's an input field. It's generated by this, right? It's generated by this code here, by this one, right? It's being generated by this. Notice that it has an ID, right? It does have an ID. The ID is text box 1. But notice that there is no ID on that input field. So I can't use that. See that? The ID didn't make it into the input field, so that's no good. Right? This is like an internal ID that Visual Studio and the .NET framework uses, to manage these components. Right? It doesn't actually mean the same thing in HTML. So how can I grab it? Well, what I could do is it does allows me to create a class, right? So if I say I add a class and I say date picker, right, and I refresh, it didn't add it. What? Am I in the right page? Donations, post, title, date, insert. Did I save this? Did save, right? Is it not? I have to reload this? What, is this reloading? I'm sorry? Let's see. Oh, am I adding it to the wrong thing? Oh, I'm sorry. I hate computers. They're always right. Always human error. The date, it's this one who I want to add the CSS, right? This one's generating the this one's generating. Let me see. Is it CSS? CSS. Actually, it's called control style CSS class. Okay? The attribute. Let's add that. And now let's put here date picker. Date picker. There we go. Refresh now. There it is. Class date picker. See that? Thank you. There we go. So now what we need to do is use jQuery to grab that element by class name, right, and then apply the plugin, right? So let's go back up and say, okay, so this jQuery would grab what? That would grab an ID, right? Remember, hash is ID, dot is for the classes, date picker. I'll save that. Let me refresh this. Refresh. Now, if I click on this, notice that now I have a nice date picker, right? Now, if I click and I select, notice that it's formatting it, right, in the default Western format, right? But the database really wants it in another format, right? It wants a year dash month dash day, right? We can change that if we go to date picker and we look at the documentation. There's a date format. There's a date format field, right? Attribute that we can format and say. So here's an example. The format there it is. So let's use that format. Let's select that. There's a whole bunch of formatting that you can read about. So for instance, we can copy and paste here the format that we want. Now we can go back, right, and refresh. And if I click on it, there it is. So that's the format that the database wants. Okay. So if I type in here ID, did we make the ID auto increment? Well, we probably didn't, right? So it's gonna want for me to actually type an ID here. Whatever. Let's do 12. Title 1, 2, 3. Content 1, 2, 3. And these are foreign keys, but they can be null. Let's do insert. Let's see if that worked. Let's go into the database, see if that worked. if I go to tables and I refresh, I have posts, and I can select all of them. There we go. Title 1, 2, 3, content 1, 2, 3. So it's there, and the date is correct. Okay. I'm going to change this a little bit because I don't want to have to deal with IDs. Yes. So I'm going to go back and change this and make it auto increment. Sorry, identity. Auto increment is for MySQL, right? So let me go back here in the Server Explorer, go to Posts, right, and edit this a little bit and say here, I'll change this. I don't want to have to deal with IDs, so I'll make this an identity. Okay, I'll update. I'll say update database. Now I can go back, and I really don't need this ID, right? I really don't need that ID. So I'm going to go and configure it so that in the post, I'm going to say that for insert, I don't want it. I don't want the ID for inserts. Okay. I'll say insert visible equal false, meaning if you're inserting, don't show this field. Right. So if I refresh, notice I don't have the ID anymore. Okay. And I can still post, right? Title 234, content 234, and insert. Oops. Identity insert is set to off. It is? Oh, maybe, did I have that? Oh, maybe I have to configure it. Let's see. In the properties. Actually, I can say refresh schema, refresh the schema. Maybe I can refresh it here. Let's see, let's try this again. Oh, where should I turn it on? So I cannot insert explicitly values for identity column in table post when identity insert is set to off. How do I turn it on? Let me see. Anybody from the audience? Is there an option here? Probably there is, right? Data, inserts, pay, blah, 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 blah. I'm sorry? Did I not remove it? Oh, I didn't remove it, did I? Source. Yeah, I don't know if that's, well, let's try it. ID, let's remove that. See, just leave it there. I might need to remove it also from the insert. I might need to remove from the insert as well, right? In the insert here, in the SQL, right, in the SQL command, if I find the insert command, there it is, I might need to remove it from here as well, right? Probably. Let's see. And remove it from the parameter. So it's not a parameter. Let me see if this works. All right, that worked. Let me refresh here, and there it is. So it is inserting, right? So I removed this as don't even use this for the insertion command. Okay. All right. All right. So we can insert. What I'd like to be able to do though is not stay in this page, right? What I'd like to be able to do is go back, right? Go back to where I came from, right? I like to be able to do that. The other thing that I like to be able to do is, I know who the owner is. Yes, I know who that is. So I could use that as an argument to insert here, right? And the author, in this particular case, well, the author is who? Well, the author should always be whoever's logged in. Right? Whoever's logged in is the one who was actually navigating through this page, right? Through all these pages. So we know who the owner is. We have that already. What about the logged in? What do we How do we know who logged in? Well, one thing that we could do is to remember who's logged in. Probably we could do is just store it somewhere, right? Maybe like in a session variable, and so that we can always retrieve it and say use whoever's currently logged in as the author. Make sense? So let's do that. Let's go back to our. Let's go back to our login. Let's go back to our login. Let's see, what could we do? Well, it could be that we do it at the login, and then when we reach the profile, we do it at the profile. That's kind of weird, right? That we do it when we reach a page to put something in a session. Ideally, what we'd like to be able to do is when you actually post, right, the login page to do something, and then go on to the profile page, right? Before, by the time you get to the profile page, you already know who's logged in. Yes? All right, so let's do that. Let's rewrite this login page a little bit, right? Let's rewrite it a little bit. What we want to be able to do is kind of have like something in between, right? To handle the fact that you're logging in, right? Store it in the session or maybe even in a database, right? And then proceed to the profile. Right now, notice that we are directly jumping to the profile page. You see that? Right? So we need something in between, like a controller, right? So let's write a very, very simple controller. One place that we could do it, we could place it in, is in what is referred to as the code behind, right? In the code behind, notice that each one of the pages that we've been playing around with, where is it? Here's the login, right? Notice that each one of these pages has, right, a sister file, right, that has exactly the same name, but with the extension .cs, right? And that, as I said, I believe on Monday, is a technique that allows you to separate, right, everything that has things that have to be displayed from those things that need to be computed, right? Logic. Anything that is logical would go in the CS file. Anything that is presentation would go in the ASPX file. Okay, so let's rewrite this a little bit. Let's rewrite this, and instead, right? Instead, what we're going to do is we're not going to go directly to the profile page, right? Instead, we're going to use .NET's framework of how to handle these events, right? Instead of using the browser to navigate, we will first go through the .NET framework, right? Process this submission, okay, and then decide to go into the profile page. Okay, let's do that. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to replace this input field by using one of ASP's tools, right, or components that is the equivalent of the input field, right? It's a text box, right? We're going to give it a name. We'll give it same thing, username, right? Okay. Run at. All the ASP.NET components, right, need to be configured to run at server, right? Which is a little bit redundant, right? If these are all components that are server-side components, obviously they're going to run at the server. But anyway, it's still there. We can, so instead of using the regular input field, so we're going to remove that. And instead of using a regular button, we're going to use an ASP button. ASP. Okay. And it's going to have the ID submit. Right? And again, run at server. This is going to be login. Oh, wait. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. No, the text goes here, sorry. Text equal login. Okay? I'm going to remove the button. Let me go back to my login page. Go to my login page. Where is it? It's here. Login. There it is. There it is. My very boring login page. Okay? That notice that it's not styled. We can style it. We can go back to the original style. We can add bootstrap styling. by using the CSS class attribute and adding what we had earlier. What do we have here? We had a form control. Yes. There it is. It's a bootstrap. Still looks like bootstrap. The button, same thing. We can say CSS class equal button primary. Oops, primary, and button block. Okay, so we have our original page, right? But notice that if I type something and I click on login, it doesn't go anywhere. Right? It stays put in the same page, right? Because now this is being handled by the framework, right? The .NET framework is handling this, right? As opposed to the, well, you know, the browser. What it does, right? What it generates. If you look at the form, that it generates, notice that the action is to go back to login.aspx. You see that? I didn't write that. Did I? I didn't put that in there. Okay? The framework added that. Okay? That's the default behavior. Right? Stay in the same page. The other thing that we got for free, if you remember, I don't know if you remember, but regular forms, when I submit them, when I submit regular forms, this gets cleared. I don't know if you realize that, right? Right, the HTTP doesn't remember anything. If you submit something, right, and you go to a page, it doesn't remember any data, right? It's just the HTML. There is no data. But because we're running inside of the framework maintains the state of the page. Okay. If you notice here, it maintains a whole bunch of other stuff in here. See that down below? Right, it's keeping track of all this other stuff here. Like, look, all these links, all these scripts are being added by the framework. I didn't add these scripts. Right, the framework added these scripts. Okay, it adds other fields, right, like this hidden field, right, with this key that it uses to maintain state and remember things about this page. Okay, right. So that's how it's able to, you know, remember, right, that input field has that value. It re-renders the field with that value. Okay? All right? Anyway, I don't care. What I want is I want Alice. I want to submit it. I want to handle that click, right? Put that in the session to remember that this is the currently logged in person. Yes? And then go to my profile page. Everybody okay? All right, let's do that. So what I want to be able to do is this button now. I want to say, hey, button, on click, right? If this button is clicked, I want to call an event. All right, so before I do that, look at the original login ASPX. The original default login ASPX has a single method in there. Right, page load. See that? Right? Now, if I go to my login page, and I do the on click, and I say create an event, it comes up with a simple name. Using the naming convention is that it uses the ID of this, which is unique, followed by the event. Yes? And what it does, notice that my login, now there it is. That's my function. It creates a function inside of this CS file. Yes? That what's going to happen is that when I do click on that button, right, not only is this going to be submitted to the server, right? The server says, oh, they clicked on this, right? It's going to run and execute this on the server. It says they clicked on this. I need to do something, right? There's an event handler. I will execute whatever code is in here. Okay? What do we want to do? Well, what we want to do is from this form control, which is the username, I like to grab the text that is inside of that field. Right? I want to grab it. Right? And the way I do that is notice that it knows the username. See that? Username. Right? These two things, the CS, the C#, and the ASPX are tied. Whatever I declare on the page is visible on the CS file. right? And vice versa. Whatever I declare in the CS is also visible on the page, right? So they share a data model, okay? So I can view that username, and it knows that is of type text box. Now, it knows that it's of type text box. So when I do a dot, right, it's looking at all the methods inside of the text box class. So there's a class called text box, right, that has a whole bunch of functions in there. One of them is, well, give me the text that is inside of that text box, right? So if I type here text, there it is, text. See that? Right, that's a function that returns to me the text that is in that text box. Notice that this is all happening on the server, right? This is not happening on the client, right? Right? So I can say var username. Now I have the username. Okay. Oh, sorry, can't use the same, right? It says I'll call it logged in username. Oh, and this might be a property, not a method. Okay, now I have whoever's logged in, yes, right? I'm going to store it in a session. I'm going to store it in the session because I want to remember this across many pages, yes? The request is only remembered from one page to the next, okay? When you submit something, a form, yes, it arrives at that page. You can use the data that came in through the query string, but then it's gone, right? If you want to pass that along to someone else, you need to generate your own links that would remember that data that you lost, right, in the query. Whereas the session allows you to, regardless of where you are, right, at any point you're able to remember any data that you can put in the session. Okay, so let's put that in the session. Session logged in username equal logged in username. Okay, so I am remembering now. Session is a magical object. Notice that it's I never declared session, right? Notice that this is a partial class. See that? That means that this belongs to a larger class. Yes, right? And that larger class declares all these other magical objects such as session, request, response. All these are all objects that are instantiated by the framework and made available to us here. Okay, as part of the framework. All right, so now the username is there. Now that's what I wanted to do. What I want to do now is just keep going, right? I want to go to the profile now. Yes, right. I want to go to the profile. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the response object to redirect, right? Send you across to some other page, right? Where do we want to go? I don't want to go back to the login page. I want to go forward. I want to go to the profile page. Yes. So I'll say here, I want to go to the profile page. And remember, the profile page is expecting the name of the profile I want to view. Right? Again, we could argue and says, well, wait a minute, but don't you have that in the session? Right? But again, you can go to a profile from different directions, right? You can go from here, from this login page, or maybe you could go from somewhere else, right? Somebody wants to navigate to your profile. Yes? Right? So I am logged in as someone else, but I want to see somebody else's profile. Yes? So we're always going to display the profile by query, right? We'll provide. I want to show this username. Yes. So if I remember, the profile is using owner, right? It's expecting username. Sorry, the username, right? So username equal. And then currently that's the logged in username, right? I just logged in, yes. And whose profile I want to see? The person who just logged in. Makes sense, correct? All right, so let's try this now. I'm going to refresh this. This is my login page. It took a little bit because it had to recompile. Right, I had to recompile the CS, right, and redeploy dynamically. So if I go Alice and I say log in, it comes to the profile page, right? Notice, and it shows Alice. I forget, did we have Bob? Have Bob. So it's working this way it's supposed to. Notice that the wall, the owner username is equal to Bob, right? So if I click on wall, now I come here, I want to post, right? I want to post a new wall into the wall, but now I know who's logged in, and I know who's the author. In this case, they're both in the same, yes? Right? Because we haven't yet created the ability to navigate to somebody else's profile. We haven't done that yet, right? We haven't decided yet how is that we're going to navigate to somebody else's wall. So we don't know that yet. Right now, the wall is ours, and we are creating the post, so we are the owners, and we are the authors. Yes? Okay. All right, so post to the wall. I'm going to come here. But now, not only do I know who the owner is, right? I also know who's logged in because it's in session. It's in the session, right? So now when I do the insert, okay, let me go back to my post. My insert, where's my insert? So here's the details view, and here's my insert command. Insert command, there it is. Here's my insert command. Do I have anything else here? Okay, so I have my command here. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to edit it in another editor, just where I can mangle this any which way I want. So here's my insert. Here's my insert. I can make it a little bigger. Into post. These are the fields that I'm inserting, right? These are the values that I am inserting. Values. These are the values. Okay? Yes? So I'm inserting this. Well, I have a template for the username, for the owner username, and I have the author. I have actually values for that, right? What do I want to do? Well, for the owner, I want to grab it from where? From the query string. Yes? But for the author, I want to grab it from where? From the session, right? So let's do that. Let's look at that. Let's look at that. Now, notice this insert command has its parameters, right? And it says that right now they're normal parameters. They're normal parameters. Where are they grabbing it from? They're grabbing it from these two guys, from these two forms, right? I don't want to do that. I don't want to have to type, right, these fields. I want to automatically populate them, right, with from the session for the author and from the query string for the owner. Make sense? Right? So I'm going to replace this. I'm going to remove these, remove that. And I'm going to create new parameters. One for the owner. This is the owner. Name equal owner. What's it called? I forget the field name. Is owner username, right? Owner username. The type is string. And where am I getting it from? The query string field is called, I think it's called the same thing, no? Owner username. There it is. Owner username. Yes? And I want to use the author from the session, right? So I'm going to say ASP session name. The author, is it called author? Author username, yes. Author username is also of type string from the session field. What was it called? Logged in username? Is that what we called it? Logged in username. Okay, that makes sense? All right. Let's try it and see if this blows up. Okay. So here's I'm Bob, and the title is title Bob 123. Bob, and this is content Bob 123, the date, and I'm going to insert. Okay, let's see what happened. Let's go to a database. Let's refresh. There it is. Owner username, right, is Bob, and the author username is Bob. You see that? Right? So now that I have now I can go back to my wall, and what should I display? I should display those posts of which I am the owner, right? And then next to each post, I can list who posted it, right? And now I could use those other people that posted this, right? Other people that might have posted to my wall to navigate to their profiles, maybe, right? Or navigate to their walls, and I could post on their wall as well. Okay. Anyway, so I like to be able to do is now navigate back. So what I want to be able to do is again create some event handler, right? That once this has occurred, go back, navigate somewhere else. Okay. So let's see. What I want to be able to do here is in my details view, I like to say, I want an event handler on item inserted. There it is, on item inserted. This is on the detail view. Okay. Once it has been successfully inserted, what is it that you want to do? I want to create an event. But before I do that, let me show you. Post.aspx has a sister file. Post.aspx has post.aspx.css, which right now looks like that, just a page load, right? That page load, right? It's the default event handler that says, well, the only thing I'm aware of is when the page loads, right? When the page first loads, you could write code here to run and execute, right? To pre-populate or pre-fetch data or massage the any data that is going to be used by the page. Yes, you could do it here, before it gets rendered, right? We're not doing any of that right now. Let me make some space here. So if I go to my post here, right, and if I say, notice that there is only page load is here. Yes, only page load is here. Or if I go here and I say on item inserted, and I say create a new event, it creates details view 1 item inserted. Okay, so if I go back to my CS file, notice that now I have this new method in there. You see that? Right? So whenever it's done, whenever the view the details view is done inserting, right, it will call this method. I am done inserting. Right? What do you want to do? What is it that we want to do? We want to go back to our wall, right? I'm done posting. I want to go back to my wall. Yes? All right, let's do that. All right, and basically I want to redirect. I want to say response, redirect back to the wall, ASPX, right? But remember that the wall ASPX is expecting right? If we go back to the wall, here's the wall. Remember, it's expecting this, right? It's expecting that, right? The owner, right? So we should do the same thing. We're gonna submit a query. We're gonna go to the wall.aspx, but we're gonna pass along certain things, right? Some arguments. We're gonna pass the owner username. This is the owner of the wall, right? Which happens to be in the query, isn't it? I think, isn't it? Right? When we oops, sorry. When we post on a wall, I'm not done. Let me just clear this. Okay, so we're here. Notice that the owner is in the query, right? So we could retrieve it from there, from when we do the insert, right? So we could say, right? Let's retrieve it from the request, var owner username equal from the request, right? The owner owner username, right? And just append it here. We'll append it owner username. Okay? So that when we go back to the wall, we still know who the owner of the wall is. Okay? Right? So let's refresh this. Let's post one more. We'll say title Bob234, content Bob234, the date. Let's do the insert. And now we go back to the wall. See that? Right, we go back to the wall. Uh-oh, what happened here? Something happened. Oh, maybe we timed out with the login. Yes. Yeah, that's one problem of with a session, eventually times out, right? Let's log in again as Bob. We'll log in. Let's post to my wall. Post again. Let's see if it works. Title Bob345. Content Bob345. Date, and then insert. Okay, it works, right? We might have timed out. Right? So notice that in the wall, I should only see things that belong to me. Before we go there, in the post of this wall, these owner username and author username should not be there, right? So that's kind of lame. So let's remove that from my post. Let's remove those fields, right? Let's remove those two fields. Also, in the insert, we still have those fields, but remember that we are populating these two fields from two different places, right? We're not populating it from the form, right? We're populating one from the query and one from the session, right? Okay. All right. So let's refresh this. Okay, it's not there anymore. So let's try it again. So title Bob 456, content Bob 456, date, insert. There it is, right? So as I was saying, this wall, I should only display those posts of which I'm an owner, right? Regardless of who the author is, right? Presumably, these other authors, they're my friends, right? Which we haven't looked at yet, right? How do we create new friends? Right now, everybody can post on everybody, right? So this is the first example of creating, a one-to-many, right? One person having many posts, right? And also there's an example of of dealing with multiple users, right? Of how do I distinguish who's who, right? And if most of you, I believe, most of you are creating features, similar features where you have some kind of social networking features where you can find other users, navigate to their profiles, browse through their content, comment on their things, right? And you have to be able to, and you have your own content, right? You have your own profile, you have your own, and you want to be able, well, how do you distinguish who's generating what and what I'm displaying, right? You have to have this in your head. Anyway, so here in the wall, since the owner is Bob, I want to display only those posts in my wall that I'm the owner, right? So let's filter that out. Let's go into my wall, and in the select statement for my grid view, I would like to change that a little bit. So my select command, here it is. Here's my select command. I don't want to display all of them. I only want to display those where the owner is from the query string. Yes? Right? So I'm going to say, I'm going to filter this a little bit. I'm going to say where, right? Owner username is equal to some parameter that I'm going to pass in, right? Owner. I'm going to use a different name here. Okay, I'm going to use, instead of typing owner username, I'm going to deliberately use another name, only because, just to distinguish the fact, right, that I can name the template, the field, whatever I want, right? as long as I map it to the right thing. So let me create a template. Select parameters template here and say, you know, ASP from the query, and the name of the parameter is owner. Remember, this owner maps to what? Maps to the name of the parameter, right? Maps to this. Okay? And the field, the type is string. And then the field, the query string field, maps to what? Maps to this. Yes? Which happens to be the same name as the field in the database. Correct? Right? So this is equal to that. That's that. All right. Very good. So now if I refresh this, notice that I only show, see that? I only show those of which I am an owner. This over here, right? There's no author, right? You know, how did that get in here, right? Well, it did get in here because maybe we're not validating a couple things, but those seem to be anonymous. I would not want those, right? Right. So I might filter those and say where the author is me and the author username is not null. Okay. All right. So I can refresh this. Oops. Sorry. Did I misspell it? Author. What is this? Oh, this mess. There it is. So I only have 3 where I am the owner and the author name is known. Okay. Now, one thing I like to be able to do is maybe navigate, right, to their profile, right? You know, view their profile, view their posts, their walls, so I can post in their wall, right? Now, obviously, I'm the only one, so I would be navigating to my profile, right? But we'll get to that. So let's create. What I wanted to show you is that we can create links. We can create an additional column here in the wall. Add new column. It says, okay, what do you want me to show in that column, right? Well, I can navigate to their profiles. I can say, let's see, author, and then so I'll have a column of authors, yes, and what I'm going to display is a link to their profile, right? So let's do that. So it's not a bounded field, meaning I don't want to grab this from a bounded data field. I want it to be a hyperlink field, which I will tell you how to generate it, right? So say, okay, there's a hyperlink field. The header text is, I want these to say authors. So the header text of the grid view, I want to say authors. I wanted to specify the URL. Right, I will tell you where to navigate to. I want you to, the URL is going to be something like profile.aspx. And if you remember the profile, if we go back to profile, it's that, right? That's what the profile is expecting, right? You know, the query string username equal, and then I will show you the profile of that username. Yes. So it's expecting that. So it's profile question mark username equal, and then some field that needs to be dynamically generated. Yes. You know, different authors will have different usernames. Yes. So I'll put a placeholder here. That's a placeholder. Okay. And then I'll say, where do I want to fill that placeholder with? From the author, right? It has the author, right? It has, what's it called? Author username, I think it's called. author username. From the field, author username. Okay. Hyperlinks text. I want this to say a profile or a profile. Yep. Oh, wait a minute. No, specify it's hyperlink text. Sorry. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I wanted to say get the text data field from the author username. So this is the text that I want to generate, right? The hyperlink, the text I want to generate. I want to show the name of the author, right? So I want to get the name from the field, and I wanted to say, I can say author colon, right? This is the text that's going to be generated, and this is the URL that's going to be generated, right? I'm going to say okay, and I'm going to save that. I'm going to go back to my wall. I'm going to refresh. There it is, right? That's my new column. Authors, right? And then I can click here. Notice that it says Bob. Notice if I hover over it, notice that the URL says username equal Bob. See that? Obviously, they're all Bob because that's the owner. That's the only one who's ever posted in my wall. I can change this where the text is dynamically generated from the author name. I don't need this column anymore, right? Actually, I don't need any of these two columns really, right? So I could go here. I only added author just to show you that I can configure it to be whatever I want. I'm going to remove the author text, right? So I can go back here. I can say edit columns. I can select that last column that I just generated, right? And I have properties here that I can configure. It says, here it is. Here's the data text format, right? I'm going to change. I'm going to remove author. I'm going to say, okay, I only want the author, the data in there. So if I refresh this, it just says Bob. Okay. Notice that if I click here, it goes to my profile. What if I wanted to go to Alice's profile, right? Say Alice actually was able to post here, right? There would be an entry in my database. Let's see. We had entry in the database that would look like something like this, right? Let's see. Server posts. Let's look at the data here. There's the data. It would look like something like, let's see, title, say Alice wrote this. Content, Alice, 1, 2, 3. So the owner is Bob. So it will show in Bob's wall, right? But who's the author? Alice is the author, right? So let's do that. So if I go and I look on my wall again, there's Alice. See that, right? So if I click on Bob, I'll go to my own profile, right? But if I click on Alice, I'm going to Alice's profile. See that, right? Okay. And just to make it more prominent here, what we could do is so that's post. I'll put it as an H2. In the H2, I'll put the request here, just to show you, who's the owner. So it's obvious who the owner is. So request owner username. Username. Oh, sorry, username. Username. There it is, Alice, right? Or if I go back and I click on Bob, there's Bob as the owner of this profile. Yes, makes sense. All right. Okay, so the next thing is that, how do I find other people, right? Up to this point, I logged in, and I don't know how to find anyone else, right? So we need a way to find. So I believe we had just started on a search, didn't we? Right? We had started on a search. What time is it? 27. All right, we can just add a link here to go to that search page. All right, let's do that. Let's use let's add here a search link to that search page. Right? href. I want to go to search.aspx. And I still want to pass owner username. I don't know if I'm going to need it, but just in case, I'm just going to pass it. I could put it in the session, right? But let's. I wanted to show you 2 ways of doing it. Class, maybe has button, success, button block, and then search. This is the search, right? If we click on search, it goes to the search page. If you remember, this was able to search from continent and country. I'm gonna leave it here, right? Because we've made a lot of changes, and this search page is no longer relevant. And so it's quite a few different changes that I would need to add to this. So I'm gonna leave it here. All right. I think we're out of time. Let me stop. Let me stop here. Where is the here? Let me stop broadcasting.